Hello, everyone. It's your boy Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It, and I just came from the theaters from seeing A Sun Is Also a Star. So after the jump, I'm going to talk to you about what I liked, what I disliked, and we'll discuss the rating system that we have on this channel so you'll know where we stand from this point on with all our movie reviews. All right? See you guys after the jump. All right, two things before we really get into the review. Now, one, I am a hopeless romantic. So romance films I absolutely adore. Moulin Rouge is one of my favorite movies of all time. So if romance films don't quite fit on there for you, you kind of get to see where I'm coming from and where my lane is for this. Now, I don't like romantic comedies, but romance films kind of fit more into my genre. And you'll see what I mean in just a little bit. Two, I have not read the book. So if you're a fan of the book of A Sun Is Also a Star, I'm not basing this on book knowledge. I'm basing this on as a film and how it works or does not work within that realm only. Okay? Now, if you're not aware, Sun Is Also a Star is a movie based on a book starring Yara Shahidi from Grownish playing Natasha and a gentleman named Charles Melton playing Daniel, who most known from Riverdale. This is a story about a young lady who was super pragmatic and very fact-based, falling for a gentleman who is very romantic, a hopeless romantic, an art student, if you will. And it's about the two of them spending time together in a day before what is known within the trailers, before Natasha has to be deported back off to her home country. Now, I saw the trailer for this and I was immediately, oh, I need to see this. This is something that fits into my wheelhouse. So overall, I think this movie does some things well, and I think does some things a little incorrectly. So we're going to talk about those. But first, I'll talk about what I liked. What I liked, I love the casting of both Yara and Charles. I think they did a great job. Their chemistry is very strong. They're very likable leads. And it doesn't help that they are both attractive people. Unfortunately, sometimes, I guess this could be considered a dislike, but sometimes when you do these romance films, having two attractive people doesn't feel what the entire world will feel like. But I think they win a little bit here having an African American woman and an Asian American male play these parts and these characters, because it sort of makes it a little bit more realistic, especially when you put it against the backdrop of the families, like ICE on one side and you have lineage family history on the other side. I think that's important. Two, what I really liked is I love the way that this is shot. There are some scenes, there are a lot of oversweeping swings. There are scenes of them just walking. There's a scene that shows Charles Melton, Daniel, walking through the street and just keeps changing the background while he walks with it. I think what's in the trailer too, what a lot of people see, is there is a shot of them in a karaoke bar. And the way that that's backlit with showing Yara's beautiful dark skin and them singing and then her going into this whole trance, it's gorgeously shot. And for a romance film, that's kind of what you want, because throughout the entire one of these movies, you're sort of on cloud nine. And this movie does a good job of establishing what it is to fall in love as a teenager and the heightened sense that you get and the heightened sense that it feels like to be in love as a teenager. My third thing that I loved was the family info that happens. You get a little bit of the background of Natasha's family, a little bit of the background of Daniel's family, and what their family has imposed upon them in this world. There's something I don't like about the way it's all done, but I do love that they establish both sides of the coin. So these kids are coming to their newfound relationship together with all this weight that has happened to them before. I also love that it's important to have that the deportation is a huge part of this, but they don't beat into the politics of it. Like, we don't mention political sides or political people. We don't mention anything with the White House or president. It's just ICE is mentioned once, and that's basically it, which is great because the baseline of this movie is the romance, not the outlying impending doom that is taking place, you know. I also really dig the concept of someone who is so fact-based driven having their mind open to someone who's a hopeless romantic and so pie in the sky, and they're both of their thoughts and beliefs bleeding in onto to each other, so that when we finish off and everything's done, they feel like they are more of just one big meld, and they both have taken the good and the bad of each other and become who they are as they grow up. Now, that's what I liked. What I did not like, this is a weird movie because it uses the concept or the conceit of destiny, fate, and happenstance happening versus chance or just probability, or stuff just happens just because. And that's basically the through line of the romance. But it also uses that as a basic structure of the film. A lot of things happen in this movie because they call it fate, but a lot of things have to fall into direct line, or a lot of this does not work. And I think as a romance film, or as a fan of romance, that can work. But if you're watching this as a general audience, or you're a filmmaker, or you're a writer, some things are just too convenient that eventually you're kind of like, all right, guys, look, how much of this do you expect me to take? That every one of these things, A, B, C, D, line up for E to happen. I get it. It gets a little wonky. It's a lot to take in. Whether or not you can accept that will basically decide 100% how you feel about this movie. If you can accept that and you can take it and you're just a romance at heart, you're going to love it. If you don't like that, this movie is going to be like, what the hell? None of this makes sense. This is all just fluff. It's a teen drama. And that will decide whether or not how you feel about the film. Two, what I didn't like, there's a moment in this scene, and I'm doing my best to not say spoilers, but there's a moment in this scene where there's a time jump, and we go from one point to years later. I almost would have been, a part of me thinks that I would have been okay if that jump not happened, where we just ended the film where it stops before the jump. But I think, unfortunately, you live in a world where the non-happy or the less tied together scenarios of relationship or a story don't always work, so they closed it up a little bit. Now, again, I have not read the book, so I don't know if this happens in the book. And I do like the eventual ending, final ending that we get. It just feels like, again, based on my last dislike, some things just have to happen accordingly for them to work. But again, as someone who liked La La Land and I love the ending of that, you'll get a lot of that from this vibe. But instead of them sort of ending and going on with their life, something else happens. And it works. I'm okay with it. I smiled. I was like, oh, that's great. But it can definitely turn people who are not into that stuff off. All right. So on this channel, we have not done rankings yet. This is the first review that we're doing. So in rankings here, how I'm going to rate films are going to be basically by three categories. It's going to be one, play it again, Sam, meaning I love the movie and I'll go see this a bunch of more times. Two, once is enough, which has a bit of a gray area. Sometimes once is enough means that the movie might just be too heavy, too much, and I don't need to see it again. Or it could be like, it was fine. I didn't really care about it, but you know, I wouldn't tell anybody not to go see it, but I wouldn't see it again. And then three is, can I have a time stone, please? A time stone means I'd like to go back in time, erase all my memory, and say that I never saw that and get my time back. And those are the three categories that we're going to kind of rank films. Again, based on everything that I've said, the ones that have a gray area, you'll kind of be able to see exactly where I land. But that sort of gives you a three-tier ranking to know where I feel about the film. So for Sun Is Also a Star, my ranking is Play It Again, Sam. Now, I will say this, for people who are not into these type of films, romance films, it's probably going to be more of a once is enough. The movie does move slow. The movie is very deliberate to get you to establish and feel for these characters. And if you don't do that, this movie is not going to be for you. But if you like teen dramas, if you like the budding relationship, budding love of a new relationship, and what may pull them apart and what puts them together, and just to watch people, what really stuck for me is to watch characters on screen have a dialogue and just interact. And sometimes those super small films, it's such a breath of fresh air compared to everything blowing up or John Wick murdering each other, which I love John Wick, and you can hear about us talk about John Wick on the podcast, on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. But I also like to have the other side of the coin, where something can just be smaller, quieter, more intimate, and tell a story that, yes, we've seen it before. Yes, it's not reinventing the wheel. Yes, it's not doing anything new. But to see what's very important, to see a black woman and an Asian male lead a film in Hollywood and do so, get to do a story that everyone else has been telling from time to time, I think is very, very important. I think it's very important that people see this movie. But I will definitely put an asterisk by my Play It Again Sam on this one, because I know this is not a movie that's for everyone, okay? But have you seen A Son Is Also a Star? If you have and you enjoyed it, or you didn't think it was that good, go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe to the channel. And if you have subscribed, go ahead and ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you'll be the first to know. First 500 people here will be a part of the founders of the channel, and we'll get somebody something nice for sticking around and letting everybody know about the place, all right? If you want to hit us up, you can hit us up on HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. I mentioned it earlier, but we also have a podcast that you can find on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere that plays podcasts. This week we've talked about John Wick 3, the latest installment in the John Wick series, which you can hear. Let us know what you think about that over there, okay? Like always, I got my ticket. You got yours?